Hi guys, Ryu here from Blender Bros, and in this video we're gonna be talking about the decal machine and decals. Let's go. So if you're new to Decal Machine and you're just starting or you just want to refresh your knowledge, this is perfect video for you. My other videos are quite old and there were a lot of changes to Decal Machine. We're not going to be covering everything, it's going to be kind of like, bare bone basics plus some additional stuff to get you going and get you interested with decals, okay? So let's first start with the installation because a few things have changed. Now when you press D, first of all you can see here on the top that if your decal machine is outdated, you will be able to see that. My decal machine is quite new. I downloaded it like a few days ago and there was another update and there you go, new version is available. So let's install new version and start from scratch, okay? So we're gonna go to add-ons and decal machine, right? And we're going to uncheck this box and save preferences. And then we're gonna save that, and then we're going to go to our Blender again and go to preferences, go to decal machine, and then we're gonna remove this, okay? It's the safest way of removing add-ons. I usually do that with hard ups and box cutter and it works. Cool, so now we don't have, decal machines. Now we're gonna install the new one, okay? So let's go here to install, and I'm gonna go to my downloads and decal machine 0.6.2 and install, right? And there you go, right? So now let's talk about this window here. First of all, you will see that you got some problem here in terms of decal libraries. We're going to talk about it in a minute, okay? Secondly, you can see that here we have a location of our decals, and it's a default location in the app folder. So when you go to your C drive, under username, app data, roaming, Blender Foundation, Blender, and your Blender version, you will see, I'm running 3.1, right? You will see your decals under add-ons here, okay? Decal machine and assets, that's where your stuff is located, okay? So if you're gonna be dropping decals into that folder or trim sheets, you need to unzip them first, okay? And then drop the folder in here. When you open folder of your decals, what you should be able to see is this file here. Now, if your decals are not updated and they have this .is21 file here, you need to update it to .is25. And the way you do that is you can click either this button here or do it through the end panel. So I'm gonna just click it here and update it, all right? And it's gonna take a while, so be patient, until it finishes. And the more decal packs you have in your folder, the longer it will take. Now, I will highly recommend if you, for example, bring in like 50 decal packs into your decal machine, you update these folders manually, okay, one by one, or you might end up with some pythons and you have no bloody clue which one is causing it, okay? So now you can see that everything is updated and is showing in here, which is great. We're going to save prefs. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the number of rows, okay, of my decal under the decal machine menu. And also I'm going to decrease the size of decal library icons, all right? Last thing what you can do is go here and change this to your data. So for example, blenderbros.com, right? And, Ryu or something like this, or you, okay? And this is going to basically be baked into decals as a creator. So if you create your decals, that's gonna be it. Also, if you don't have this PL file installed, you need to do that. If you install in Decal Machine for the first time, you're gonna get prompted to do it, so don't worry about it. It will just pop up. I already have it on my machine, so I don't have to worry about it, but it comes with Decal Machine, so you know when it happens, okay? So just save prefs and we're good to go. Now let's just look in the decal machine menu. So by default the menu is D, okay? So I'm going to just simply, let me just collapse these windows here and open decal machine and go to update, which is here, right? There you go. Now we're going to press D key, and this is your default decal machine menu. Now, this menu shares the shortcut key with box cutter. When you press, W to turn on box cutter, press D, then you cannot access Decal Machine. Okay, so when you press W to turn off box cutter, then when you press D, your Decal Machine is gonna work. So if your Decal Machine doesn't work, check if your box cutter is on, or remap the key. Okay, so you can do either one or the other. So now let's talk about basics of decals, right? Now, first of all, how to get your own decals into, or decals you bought somewhere, into the decal library. That's the, first thing when you talk about, right? So when you have a decal zip, let's say you go to our store, to blenderbros.com, we already dropped the new decal pack on our stores. It contains a shit ton of decals and also trim sheets. It contains 440 decals and 12 trim sheets. That's more than you need. And the discount is insane. You're saving about $200 by buying this pack. So if you want to get decals for literally any occasion, then I suggest you grab that. It's a fantastic deal. Now, what I wanted to say is that once you download this, let's say this pack, and you're gonna open it, they're gonna be zips with decal packs, zips with trim sheets. What you need to do is you need to unzip each of these until you're gonna get to a folder level. Okay, so if I go to my custom folder in which I store my decals, you'll see that these how the decal folders look. Okay, so when you unzip a folder with decals and you go into that folder, you should immediately see decal folders, right? And then this .is25 file. That's essential. If you don't have this, it will not work, okay? Your trim sheets should go to a trim sheet folder. So don't unpack trim sheets into decals, okay? So go to trim sheets, and that's how trim sheets look. So when you unpack BB trim sheets, or so Blender Bros trim sheets, you should see this and some relevant maps, okay? So trim sheets are a bit more complicated, especially when they textured, because you're gonna have even more maps, all right? But this file here, if you don't have that, your trim sheets and decals will not work, okay? And you're gonna have to update them. Now, for example, occasionally you're gonna have some errors where, Decal Machine will tell you that you have like ambiguous files in your folder, or some corrupted files, etc. Check if you don't have any junk in here and unnecessary folders that Decal Machine cannot read. Now, what can happen, this file here, this .is25, could be accompanied by the .is21. You need to remove that one because you need to use the .is25. Otherwise you're gonna have some corrupted or suspicious or whatever the fuck decals in your decal folder. Okay, you're gonna have a problem with your decal libraries. It's not gonna work. So you need to make sure that this is clean, okay? So again, very important. So don't put trim sheets into decals and decals into trim sheets. These are two separate folders, okay? So what you can do now, right? You can go to this default location on your Blender. So when you install Decal Machine, go here to scripts, right? Add-ons and Decal Machine, and copy this folder assets, okay? Copy that to your desktop. Now, why would you want to do that? The reason for that is because if you're going to install Decal Machine on every single different Blender version of your on your computer, you will be doubling the amount of space needed for decals, because each of these is going to contain the same amount of decals if you want to use them. So the better way of doing it is dropping this asset folder, okay, from scripts here. Just copy that to your desktop, okay, this one, right? And rename it whatever, and then put decals over there manually. So put folders over there manually, right? And remember, decals into decals and trim sheets into trim sheets. Now go here to desktop, right? And choose the correct folder and accept, and then accept again, and your decal library should update with all the stuff that you have in that folder, okay? Trim sheets and decals, all right? And then save preferences and you're good to go, and this should work. So now when I'm gonna press D, I'm gonna have all the Blender Bros decals and trim sheets displayed, because that's actually all of our stuff that we have in this pack, by the way. So if you're gonna get this pack I mentioned, well, except this one, because this is some kind of a junk that comes with Decal Machine, but and these as well. Let me actually remove that because I don't need these. The original machine decals are decent design, but the quality is absolute garbage. So let me just remove this example, my decals, all that shit. Let's just disable it. My decals, I don't need it. and save prefs, and you should work. Boom. So now we removed all the junk. So these are all the all of these decals, right, and trim sheets are available through this pack I talked about. You know, this is about 440 decals and 12 trim sheets. It's a shit ton, okay? And each of these libraries contains at least 20 decals. Some of them are larger, like this vent pack, for example, which is 45. You have also really cool sci-fi, info decals, and trim sheets are way massive. You know, some of these trim sheets libraries are really large. So it depends which one, but there's just a ton of stuff for you to play with. Okay, so now let's talk about how the decal machine works. It's really simple, guys. Okay, let's add a sphere here. Okay, and let's just add the matte with hard ups. Let's go to look depth and change it to something a little bit less crazy, like this. That's perfect. And let's change this matte cap to something nice like this. Beautiful. Okay, when you press D, okay, you can choose either decals or trim sheets. Okay, let's talk about decals first. Now let's put here an emissive decal just for fun, right? And let's press G and hold Control, and you can move it around your mesh. And by automatically, you can see that the snapping tool is turned on, set to face, and align rotation to target. This is how decal machine works. Okay, so just press G and hold Control, and it's gonna align. Now, if you want to project this, because you can see it's not projected, if you want to project this onto the surface, with the new decal machine you have at least two options, okay? So you can either press D and project holding Alt, okay? If you hover over a menu, you're going to see more options. And you move your mouse to the right, okay? Which will basically, what it will do, it will encompass the geometry, okay, that the decal lays on. So make sure that it's, kind of sticks out away from the geometry, okay? Boom. And you project it. And now you can see that decal is projected. Now the reason why you see these artifacts here, because probably we have the viewport, clip start set to something insane. So let's go with 0.1. That didn't actually fix it, which means that maybe the reason for that is because the geometry is not super smooth. It's a bit, faceted, because the sphere isn't really that smooth. So watch this. If I'm gonna go back and press Ctrl 1 to subdivide the sphere, and then I'm gonna apply this again, it's gonna be perfect, you see. So sometimes you need to make sure that your geometry is smooth enough for decals to work. Now, what you can do with these decals is a lot of things. For instance, I could, for example, change material inside of the decal, because this decal is a subset decal. What it means is that there are three materials that are building this decal. One of them is the one that goes outside here, that matches the landing alpha plane. Then the one inside and the emissive one. You can change all three, okay? So if I'm going to make this, something different here, like a darker one, let me just change it manually before one of us dies. There you go. And I wanted to adjust this, right? I'm going to press D, go to Match, and literally scroll. And you can scroll through materials available in your scene, okay? So to switch the matte inside, what you need to do, right, is click, press D, Match, and scroll, okay? If you want to switch the matte outside, you press D, Match, Shift D, and then hold Shift, and you scroll the outside. But I would not recommend it, because this is not the best idea. If you want to change the strength of this emission, you press D, then adjust E, and you can adjust the strength. If you want to change color of it, you can do it as well, but you need to actually add here color, hue and saturation. That's the one. So with this one injected, you can actually change the hue of this decal. Okay, let's say it's something bluish or whatever. Change the value, of course, as well, etc. Saturation, right? You can do all kinds of interesting things in here. So there you go. You can play with that. So that's the very basics of working with decals, right? Now let's say you change the color of the sphere to different matte, right? And now this, this decal doesn't match anymore, okay? What you need to do is go to D menu and reapply, which will reapply this decal here. Now, if you have more than one of these decals, okay, of the same type, okay, it needs to be the same type. So like literally the same decal, right? Apply it here, okay? What you can do is double click, okay, on one of them to select both of them, and you can adjust both of them at the same time, okay? Peachy, cool. let's say that you dropped a decal here, okay, but you wanted to, let's just drop a, a text decal. You wanted to rotate it, you wanted to adjust it. All you do is press D, adjust, and you can scroll it. If you hold Shift, you're going to slow down by 5 degrees. And if you hold Shift and Control, you're going to slow down to 1 degree. So you can very precisely align this. Okay, cool. Now, when you mirror a decal across your geo, you will see that my Blender will crash. And this can happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it again. And I wanted to mirror this to the other side, right? You'll see that my decal is going to get flipped. Okay, let's just even apply them. So let's just Control-1 this. D and project it, boom. It's mirror image, right? Now you can mirror this with Machine Tools mirror, which is absolute rubbish. And I would actually recommend you do this with hard ups. So go to mirror, go to data and click on this, mirror you, okay? That's what's gonna flip your text, okay, properly. So that's text decals. Also, you can change the color of them, right? If you go here to matte, what you need to do is slide this to the max. Change saturation here to 0 if you want to, and then you can play with either values, right, or colors, so you can do anything you want. Also, if this is too strong, I can see this quite often, guys, and it's really irritating when something is really dark, and people are just dropping like blindingly, bright decals on the mesh. What you can do is go here to alpha, hold Shift, right, and drop the alpha just a little bit to make it a little bit less insane, okay? Now, I don't have actually my Japanese decals here, but I can show you this on this emissive pack from Blender Bros, which is pretty bloody cool, how this works. So if I'm going to project this, right, you can either increase the strength of emission here, right, or decrease the alpha holding Shift. So, you can do like a faded sort of an effect of an emissive decal, which is pretty cool. Okay, so you can play a lot with these settings here. Now, if your decal is not emissive and you want to make it emissive, and it's an info decal, like one of these, let's say, okay. So let's just apply this, and you want it to make it into emissive. What you need to do is go here and change the color of the emission to something different than black, and then increase the strength, and you got emissive decal. Easy peasy, right? Japanese. All right, so that's that, and let's keep going. So now let's change it to something less black. Decals, of course, can be arrayed. So let's say I'm going to apply this decal here like this, right? But I want to array it around. No problem. I just go to Q menu with hard ups, mesh tools, control click on radial array, and you're done. And you might need to do a bit of adjusting, So what you can do in this case, right? Let me show you. You can press D, go to adjust, and when you hold Alt, you can move your mouse left and right to change the depth of this decal, but don't go too far, because if you do go too far, okay, like for example this far, right, you'll see that the decal is going to stick outside the geo. Now in Eevee you'll not see that, but if you go to cycles, okay, when you're going to be too far with your decals, you'll see that they're going to cast a shadow, okay, so don't go too far because that will look nasty on your mesh, okay. So just be careful. Another thing that you can do with decals, okay, is parallax. So let's say you have a decal and you want to increase depth of it, so like a feeling of depth. What you need to do is press D, go here, press D again, and you can move your mouse left and right and adjust parallax, okay? Just don't overdo it. Another tip I can give you is that your decals will look fucked up in orthographic mode. So when they look weird, make sure you're not in orthographic. You need to be in perspective because parallax will look just off in the orthographic mode, okay? So that's that. Alright, I think that's about it in terms of decals. We're not going to be covering the decal creation in this video. You can watch my other video on that. But this is basically pretty much it. Now, if you wanted to project a decal onto your mesh, but you wanted to move it afterwards, what you need to do is, instead of clicking Alt, okay, holding Alt and projecting, you need to hold Shift and project. This will shrink wrap your decal to your mesh, so we can move it on top of the mesh, okay, which is pretty bloody cool. And of course you can adjust it as well, so you can boom, shrink wrap it here, and you can move it about on your mesh. So because when you project a decal normally, as in you're just going to hold Alt and project it, you can't move it anymore, okay, it's baked. Your decal is going to be parented to your mesh, so when you shrink the mesh or move the mesh, they're gonna move with the mesh, so remember that. All right, cool. here under the defaults, okay, in panel under Decal Machine, what you can do is toggle this, okay, texture storage. Now it will pack your decals into your blend file, so you don't have to actually go here to external data and pack everything, because if you want to just pack decals, you can do that. Now what it will do, it will allow people without Decal Machine to be able to open your file and see the decals. And also, you know, it will enable you to open this file on a different computer without having to pack your data manually, but it will increase your file size, so, you know, be warned, okay? So you can choose unpack or pack. So that's that. Now, before we jump into talking about Decal Machine, so I would like to tell you that there is a free course right now you can download and start working on hard surface model from scratch to a final render. And this course utilizes the Machine Tools add-on and also utilizes PowerServe, which is a fantastic add-on. So if you would like to put the knowledge into practice and start using Machine Tools and get used to add-on workflow, this is your fantastic chance. So go ahead to our website, link in the video description. Go to blenderbuilds.com, download the course and enjoy. Now let's talk about trim sheets, because trim sheets are fun. So now trim sheets are really cool. You use them in edit mode. You could use them in object mode, but then you're going to be applying them to the whole mesh. And the whole trick with trim sheets is to apply them to a strip of quads, and they work best with quads. You can technically apply them to n-gons, but they might get stretched, okay? So the way trim sheets work is that if you have nothing on your mesh, no trim sheets, and you go to D menu, you'll see now that you're gonna have a very different library. Okay? You're gonna see only trim sheets, okay? And you can click on the trim sheet and you'll see that there's a lot of trims. And if you wanna apply your trim only to this selected strip of quads, what you need to do is you need to hold Alt and click. And you wait a little bit and boom. And then what you can do is you can just go to D, adjust, hold Control, and you can scroll through every single trim sheet in that trim sheet library. So I'm scrolling through trim sheet 4, you can see that BB4, and I'm scrolling through all the trims available, okay, here in that library. If I'm gonna switch to, let's say, 6, so I'm gonna hold Alt and click. I'm gonna hold Control and, you know, scroll through all these, right? Now, here the reason why this is distorted here, right, in this area is because the UVs of these two strips, right, are actually, you know, being narrowed down in here. What you can do is maybe quadrify them. I actually don't know if it's gonna work, but you can try quad unwrap. Yeah, it sometimes helps with the stretching, but you know, you're gonna get these pulls here because, you know, the geometry is narrower in here, so that's you know, nothing you can do about that. But yeah, it's gonna help with a bit with the pulls. Next thing what you can do is you can actually unwrap it to empty, which means you can remove it and replace it with the basic trim sheet matte. In our case, the basic trim sheet matte is you know, is the this gray, right? So, but if you have a texture trim sheet, okay, like for example this one, you will be unwrapping to a very different matte, okay? So if I'm gonna drop this, right, and I wanna remove that, I'm gonna unwrap it to empty, and the basic matte for this trim is this. So, you know, it not always works perfectly because it's basically, you know, tiling this matte, but you know, there are limitations to everything. So my suggestion would be, if I was doing that, I would simply be either removing the matte completely from this sphere, or you could replace it with something a bit more basic. Now, if you're adding a secondary trim sheet to that mesh, right, so I'm going to add another trim sheet here across, I would just click on the trim without pressing Alt, okay? You just click, and that's it, and the trim is added, all right? And it's really quick and powerful, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can, for example, move it, so D, S, and S for scaling. You can press G for moving, okay, so you can move it. And if you go to UV editing, you will see what's happening. Basically, what's happening is you moving, okay, this strip of quads on top of the trim sheet texture. So this is what's happening. Same as scaling, right? So that's what's happening, all right? So this is how it works. And you know, that's basically it, guys. Okay, that's all you need to know really about, you know, the trim sheets and decals. Okay, now what I want to show you briefly is panels, because they're bloody cool. Panels in Decal Machine are bloody awesome, and they really a fantastic way of creating details that normally would be very difficult to create. So let's briefly cut this sphere with box cutter, okay? So I'm gonna show you what I mean. I'm gonna go to end gone, and I'm gonna cut it in view mode, okay? I'm gonna cut it here like this, like this, like this, and like this, okay? And I'm gonna press B, and I'm gonna press K for knife, and slice it. Now I got this edge here in the middle, which by the way messes up with my shading, but we can fix this. So by default, when you go to edit mode, this is gonna be selected, right? And with this selected, what you can do is go to D menu with Decal Machine. By the way, turn off box cutter with W. Go to D menu with Decal Machine and click on E panel, okay? But before you click on E panel, there are different options. If you just click on it, it's gonna create this panel, but it's gonna leave this edge here intact. And you might have a problem with shading, okay? But I can show you how to fix the shading later. But what you can do, you can actually control click on it, which will create a panel, but it will remove the edge. And you will get a beautiful panel on top of a geo. Let's just turn off this box cutter and go to adjust, hold alt, move your mouse to the right just a little bit, and boom, and you got yourself a panel. Now, why would you want to keep the edge, okay? You might want to keep the edge because you might want to choose a different matte on both of these elements. But if you, let's say, don't have the edge, you removed it, and you want to get it back, what you can do is go with the panel cut, and you can cut this panel, okay, like this, and you can create additional geo with it like that. But before we do that, let me show you a cool trick. Let's go with Mesh Machine and stash this information of normals. We're gonna stash it, okay? We're gonna stash all the information, all the shading information of normals. We're gonna go to D menu and alt click on panel cut and scroll my mouse to construct and click. This will actually create a cutter, okay, like a strip of geo going around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut it. So select this, shift select that, and go to Q with hard ups, and go to booleans and knife, okay? Now what I have, okay, is a cut across the sphere, but you can see the shading is messed up, right? So watch this. All I'm going to do is select everything, go to Y, and I'm going to go to normals and transfer, and I'm going to transfer normals from the original sphere, and boom, clean as a whistle. Now what we got here, we got this edge, which we can select with a Mesh Machine. So click and alt click to select this whole loop, because otherwise, you know, you're going to have to go manually in Blender. Who the fuck want to do that? So click and alt click, you know, to select the loop. Mark it as seam, okay? And then what you can do is L, select this one, so hover over this mesh and press L, and we can add, you know, add a different matte here. So we could add some different matte here like this and a sign, right? And let's make it darker, okay? Now let's recover this panel, so go back, click on this, right? And then we can match it, okay? So press D and reapply, all right? And boom. And now you got this beautiful panel going across your sphere, and it's just, you know, perfect shading. Nothing is sticking out, and it's all illusion. And on top of this, you know, of course, you can start dropping decals or trim sheets, you know, because you can just, you know, keep dropping trim sheets. But you can, you know, keep dropping decals here and start, you know, sort of designing your mesh. We are in orthographic mode, which is why it looks like shit. There we go. Let's just, you know, drop a decal here, drop a decal here. Let's just double click them to select them both. Alt project, boom, sorted, right? And look at this, you know. It's beautiful. Even if you go very close, you can't just tell if it's a geo or decal. It's really difficult to say. So if decals are really well made, and our decals are very well made and beautifully shaded, you know, then you're gonna have some fun. Now, if you, for example, wanted to create your own strip of quads through the mesh, what you could do is you could combine a box cutter like this. Let's press K to cut this through, and then we're gonna get this mess, right? So what we could do here is we could just select these, let's say select this edge, and we could go to Mesh Machine with my Y menu. We could grab an offset cut, and we could just offset this outside like this, all right? So we could just make this a little bit less crazy, maybe actually deeper like that, something like this. Okay, cool. And we got strip of quads now, okay, on this sphere. If the shading is off, all you need to do is select everything, go to Y menu, And again, go to normals and transfer normals, and your shading is back to perfect. Now what we're gonna do, because we can't select this, it's not quads, right, it's n-gons. Click alt click here, go to boolean cleanup, and clean that up. Maybe the other one, boom, and clean this up. So boolean cleanup and clean these up. There we go. Shading gets messed up again, no problem. Let's just normals transfer, boom, and then we're going to select these, right, and we're going to run a trim sheet through it. So let's grab a trim sheet and alt click that, and let's wait, boom, scroll with control, and there you go. And without any modeling, guys, you got this perfectly shaded sphere with details. So that's the power of Decal Machine. So if you're creating, let's say, some portfolio, or you creating something for just for fun, and you want to use decals and trim sheets, do that. But let me tell you, they also work with game assets. There's a workflow that we've developed, and they work with game assets. You can import them to Substance Painter, and you can work with Substance Painter and use these decals as stamps. And you can also export trim sheets. We have a whole course on it called A to Z Environment Design with Trim Sheets, where we show you how to use them on a modular environment and export them to Unreal Engine. And you could keep adding stuff here, man. You could just get like a very tiny edge on here. Let's select everything. Let's just run this transfer one more time. Beautiful. Select this tiny edge here, this one, and run like a tiny trim sheet on this. Okay, so let's say we're gonna run something like, I don't know, something like this, right? Just click on it and boom, and there's your trim sheet. So it's a really cool way of working. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that there's a really cool decal pack created by one of the members of our coaching community on blenderbuilds.com, and this pack is really awesome. It's beautiful design, info decals. There's a free version of it, and you can also get a paid version of it. It's inexpensive, so if you wanted to expand your decal library, that's one of the decal packs to get, because the quality is really, really superb. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.